What's up, everybody? So again, didn't really plan on making a video, but I think that this is probably going to become something that's a little bit more common now that I'm home for a little bit. Not traveling to as many events means that I have more time to be here at the office in Stockholm, which means that I have more time to sit and wonder about news and just not be exhausted and think about the games. And so today, what I was thinking about talking about for a little bit is Jumpy, joining up with this new FNATIC roster. And these are just like kind of just thoughts that are going to be coming into my head. It's not like a particularly I'm not going to be thinking too much about like Jumpy's past, his history. From what I do know, it's like the name, if you've been around CSGO and if you've been around 1.6 in the Swedish scene, you'll know who Jumpy is. I mean, he has a long history in 1.6, but he also has a history in CSGO. I mean, he's been playing in different sub-top Swedish teams pretty much since the beginning, right? He's just been kind of bouncing around. Greyface comes to mind as one of the teams that he was a part of. Property. I mean, there's a bunch. The recent team that he was on is, Escape. And so, I mean, like, he has been playing for quite some time. It wasn't until I really got to talk with Vugo while he was here last week doing his interview with Fragbite that I got to get a real grip on just, how much he can bring to the table, because according to Vugo, right, Jumpy has just sick knowledge. And I mean, if you're talking about the guy playing for more than 5 years, basically, he's going to start actually having quite a bit to bring to the table as far as tactics are concerned. If that's what he feels, interests him, then that to me is super interesting, right? Because you're talking about a guy who on the individual level hasn't really been able to make a break, right? Who hasn't been able to actually, get in there and start competing at the very top of the CSGO scene. But he's still been current. He's still been playing. He's up to date with the meta. And well, when you're talking about FNATIC, if they can find somebody who seems like, who fits that role of coach right now, it seems like Jumpy does make sense after all, because right now FNATIC find themselves in a bit of a drought regarding in-game leaders, right? They don't really have one. Wenton apparently hasn't, really called in the past, despite the fact that he is interested in the role of taking on in-game leader and calling the shots for FNATIC. And especially with this recent coach change made by Valve, I mean, it really does come to somebody who's going to be in-game calling the shots. And so it seems like FNATIC right now, they're going to be falling back on Wenton to take care of that role, because he's the one who's showing an interest in it. Olofmeister and Dennis don't want to call, and Lekro kind of lacking the experience. I mean, he's still one of those up-and-coming young guns right now coming out of the Swedish scene that Pronax found on FPL a few months ago, and just made waves at Masters, had a sick performance there, and ever since has kind of been on the radar, right? People have been keeping an eye on him, but as far as an in-game leader is concerned, not quite there yet. Doesn't really have the chops. He has the individual skill to take over a game, which will be interested to see him paired up with the likes of Olofmeister, Dennis, Twist, right? That's going to be fun to see, if he can hit that individual skill. But when it comes to in-game leading, not so much. And then you have Twist, who's never really, at least as far as my knowledge is concerned, right, never really, gone the in-game leader route. And so FNATIC, with this recent change of the rosters, right, sending JW, Crims, and Flusha to Godsent to play with Pronax and Schneider. I mean, Flusha was the one who kind of took it over after Pronax left, right? He was the one who said, right, okay, I'll try and be that guy to call the shots and carry us through. But I've heard a bunch of different opinions as far as that's concerned, as far as like, did he enjoy the role? Is it something that he really wanted to do? It felt more like something that he was doing under duress, that he had to do because nobody else was going to do it. And so, for a long time now, FNATIC have kind of been in that sort of scenario ever since Pronax left, of, like, who's actually calling the shots on the team, who's going to be that in-game leader that's going to decide how we play the game, how we approach the game, and who's going to take the responsibility of, making the decisions that will eventually win you a game, right? I mean, that's a bit of a tough one. And so it's interesting to me now that Jumpy is going to come into the picture, because you have the likes of Wenton, who also has Vugo to back him, although Vugo seems to be taking more of an analyst role now. He seems to be kind of like falling back, not so much wanting to be the in-game leader, which he has been in the past, and not really wanting to travel with the team so much. It seems like he's falling back into more of like an analyst management sort of role, right, for the team. He's still there, right? So it seems like there's like three things that could work here for FNATIC when it comes to this in-game leader sort of scenario that they have on their hands now, which is basically they have Wenton, who wants to, right? Who wants to in-game lead. So that's already kind of important. You kind of need the guy to want to be the in-game leader because of the amount of work that goes into in-game leading. It's not an easy job. There's a lot of pressure, additional pressure that gets put on you when you're the one calling the shots. And so, already that helps. The guy wants to be the in-game leader. Then you actually have a bit of a support structure. So FNATIC are making the right calls, right? They're saying, right, okay, now we need to get a bit of a support structure here to start actually executing this idea of Wenton calling. And it seems like that support structure is going to be Vugo in an analysis kind of role, and also just being able to obviously get Wenton up to speed on the tactics, tendencies, etc. of FNATIC, seeing as how he's been with the team for ages now, and he's even led. And now you have Jumpy coming in as the coach. So somebody perhaps who's going to be able to pair up as a bit of a closer duo, traveling with the team on the road, all that, right, with Wenton. And so you can actually have, the years of experience that Jumpy has, and perhaps the vision that he has for how the game should be played, pairing up with Wenton, who wants to call, but maybe isn't quite settled on exactly how he wants to handle things just yet. And so it seems like perhaps you could have, that triangle that works for FNATIC. Now, would it be a case of too many cooks in the kitchen? Like too many people trying to have input? You have to wonder a little bit. But it seems like the whole team right now to me is that, right? There's it's going to be in flux. Like FNATIC are going to be figuring out how they actually want to run now that they have Lekro, who again, diamond in the rough, Twist, just crazy individual talent, but not really like the leadership sort. Olaf and Dennis, who seem to me just want to get kills, right? There's nobody who's really going to be deciding, right, this is how we're going to play the game. What's going to be more interesting to see is whether this triangle of Jumpy, Wenton, and Vugo can get the others to get behind their vision for the game, right? If Jumpy's coming in and Wenton, between the two of them, are saying, this is how we want to approach the game now, maybe a bit more tactical side of things, not relying so heavy on individual duels and just, big performances from individual players to carry us through, which, obviously FNATIC have kind of struggled with over the past couple of months, which I think prompted this change. If they're going to go and say, right, this is how we're going to change it up now, we want you to start executing in this sort of way and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the rest of the team have to follow through on that. And so maybe Jumpy with his experience, right, is going to be something where, Olaf Meister, for example, or Dennis, they're going to be right, okay, no, he knows what he's talking about. He has quite a bit of experience, right? Okay, let's get in on this, right? And let's see if we can actually change and make it work. So that's just the interesting tidbit of knowledge that, just came out today, right? That I thought was fun, because it just means that you have a lot of experiences that is going to be coming in now, along with a young in-game leader who seems hungry, right? And who seems to want to really assume that role and take it on for FNATIC. Unlike, how they've been functioning for the past several months now, where it was kind of like, who's calling, who wants to, okay, Flush is going to call, but he doesn't really want to, right? You can't have that. You need to have like that unified direction, that unified direction that you're going to go in and say, right, this is how we want to play the game. And that's when a team does the most damage, right? That's why SK are so good right now. For example, Fall and Cold, Zeus, at the time when Zeus was still on the roster, right? They'd figured it out, right? They'd managed to get it so that you had 5 players who had the same goal. They were like, this is how we're going to play the game. And it worked so well, and it still works so well. You need to look for that on your team. It's one of the most difficult things to do, though, obviously, to find 5 players who think about the game the same way. But right now, SK, the top teams, they are achieving that to an extent. VP as well, right? They're just so consistent at just delivering round after round, game after game, and tournament after tournament. So I mean, I think this is it's an interesting thing that's come in. I think it's going to be fun to watch how FNATIC evolve over the next couple of months. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, right now, I'm a little bit more concerned about FNATIC than I am Godsent, even though Godsent is kind of a case of you're going back to your ex, if that makes sense. Like you're just thinking like, oh, it was so nice back then. But then, you go back with her and you realize, wait, we kind of broke up for these reasons that I kind of forgot about because it's been a bit of time, went and, saw some other people. And then you come back and you're like, oh, it's going to be just like it was when, oh, no, actually, I wonder how things are going to pan out for Godsent, because that to me is interesting, right? It's basically JW and Flesha who are saying, and Crims, obviously, like we want Pronax back. And is that going to work, right? Is Pronax now going to be able to get them to follow his lead? It seems like it for now. Obviously, they're going to have that honeymoon period, right, where they need to basically everything needs to click together. But if anybody can pull it off, I think that Pronax can. I think that him and RDL is their coach, right? Between the two of them, they should be able to come up with something. Flesha, giving some insight. JW looking to be JW again. It's a really interesting time between both of these teams. But, right, I mean, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Jumpy, what I thought, how things are going to like kind of shape in FNATIC now. And well, I think right now, as far as Jumpy is concerned, He's going to come into a team. He's got a lot of strong potential there, a lot of individual crazy potential in Twist, Lekro, Dennis, and Olaf. And then he's got Wenton, who can kind of just assume that role of in-game leader. So it'll be really fascinating to see, if it's possible, right? If you have 4 really strong individual talents, if they can actually, gel together and get behind Wenton and Jumpy and Vugo and figure out how to make that machine work and get to the top again. Because, Olaf, he's hungry, right?